Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Garcia. I'm a software support specialist over here at DistributorCentral. Today's webinar, we're going to be going over order management, basically how to use your order management tools. So we'll go over like how to create an order, what to do once an order comes in from your website, regarding the e-commerce side, payments, and we'll just kind of break down the orders in general, how to find an order, all that good stuff that you'll need to know. So this webinar will be helpful for those who are brand new to our platform or who've been with us for a while and just kind of need a refresher, or if you're just not sure exactly how all of our order management tools work. So this will also be recorded, so you should be receiving a link to the recording about this time tomorrow at the latest. And then also feel free to ask any questions along the way in the chat, and I'll save about 5 to 10 minutes at the end to get those answered. So let's go ahead and get started here. So once you log into your DC account, there's multiple ways that you can do orders. You can do orders through the back end, so through your DC account, or you can create one of our responsive websites, place and then send it off to your customers to have them place orders, which is connected to your DC account, and it'll come in and you can then place the order on the back end. So the orders, whether you place it directly through your DistributorCentral account, at that point you have the option to save the order, just create the PO, or you can create the PO and send it to the supplier right away. When your customers place orders on your website, what that'll do is you'll get an order notification that will come into your email inbox, and then you'll also get one that comes into your DC account up here where it says orders, and we'll go over that here in a second. But the orders placed on your website are always going to come to you first as a distributor to review, and then you can create the PO and send it off to the supplier. So it'll never go from the end user straight to the supplier. So we get a lot of questions about that, so just want to clear that up. So we'll go ahead and kind of give an example of placing an order on the back end. And like I mentioned, there's the two ways to do it. So we'll show an example of an order coming in from the website, and we'll first start off with an order placed on the back end. Another thing, excuse me, once the order is, in order for your customers to place orders on your website, they'll have to create a customer account. With this customer account, once it's created, it'll keep track of all their order history. So they'll have their own order management on the websites, and then they can go in, they can look at the status of the order, they can request a reorder, they can look at the order history as long as they've had the account, so on and so forth. When you create an order through DC on the back end, you have the ability to set up a customer account on your own, which can also transition over to the website. If you wanted to set it up for them, then you can connect the order to their you can connect their account to the order you're getting ready to create, and then you can also give them access to a website with that customer account you just created. So we'll kind of touch base on that real quick. So if you come over here and you see customers, if you click on customers, and then I'll just click on view all customers, so you can see here kind of a breakdown of how it is. So I have a couple test accounts here that I've created, and you can see the orders. So under this DC right here, you can see there's been 20 orders placed for this customer. So it's going to keep track of all the order history on the customer. So if I click on the 20, it'll pull up all the orders that they've created, and you can sort and if you want to show more, so on and so forth. When you come in here to the orders too, you can click on the pencil to, if you have to edit anything. So you can change the company name, similar stuff to your, when you're editing your contacts on your own account. So if you look here, you'll see that when I talked about you can assign them to a website. So this allows you to assign it to a website if you're creating it on the back end. If they create it on your website, then it'll automatically fill in that website for that customer. And you can also do no website if you want them to be able to log into any of your websites in DistributorCentral. DistributorCentral also provides a CRM. So if you want to make any notes on the account, any contacts or anything like that, you can come over here to correspondence on the actual customer, and you can add a new correspondence which if you talk to them or if you email them, you can put in the correspondence here so you or anybody that has access to your account can track the correspondence that's been going on with that customer. In regards to the correspondence too, if the customer is used on the order, and once the order is placed, so on and so forth, it'll keep track of what's going on with the customer, but you can add your own custom if you wanted to. Let's say that your customer is tax exempt. You can come in here to the terms and you can determine whether they're taxable or not. And then also any credit cards. So this goes to the e-commerce side, which all our websites are e-commerce enabled, ready to go. If you have a credit card set up on your website through merchant account, and we'll go over that here in a little bit, that you can click on the credit cards and their stored credit cards would show up here for you if you needed to pull them up and use them maybe on a previous invoice or a current invoice, and they say, hey, I want to use the credit card that I had on file, and then you'll be able to see the information. So we'll go back here to the customer list. And it's really easy to create a customer. You just come up here to click Add New Customer, and then just fill in their information here, and then click Submit, and it'll automatically create a username and password. The system will generate one. Let's say you want to change the information for your customer. I'll just go into this one again, click Edit. If you scroll down here, you'll see where it says Change Username and Password. So I can come in here and I can change the contact name, I can change the username, and I can change the password, save it, and then send them the updated information if I need to. You won't be able to see their password, but you can update it for them, just like they will be able to update it on their website, on your website. If they create a customer account on your website, they can log into your website directly, and they can access this information to change their own customer information if they need to. So we'll go back here. So if you're placing orders on the back end, first thing, and you want to track it through a customer, make sure you set up the customer account first. You don't have to, but if you want to track it for a customer, make sure you do that. You can always add it later on too, and you'll see that here later. But that's the customer side of things to get started when you're placing the orders on the back end. So now what we'll do is we'll kind of just place a basic order, and then you'll see how to tie it to a customer, and then we'll kind of go from there, show you how to pull it up, how to find it, etc. So I'm just going to do a simple Tumblr search here. And I'm going to pick one of these tumblers. So I'm just going to click Add to Cart. And when placing an order, just so we can go over it real quick, you can click to Add to Cart, which will start the order process. Sorry about that. Or you can also go through and click on the actual item itself and then click Order Now. It's going to start the same process as you'll see here. So this is a part where you can tie it to the customer like we talked about. So I could do Add New Customer, I could do Browse Customer. So I'm just going to do Browse Customer, and I'll pick one of my customers, and then I'll click Next. So as I go through the order process, you'll see here that, excuse me, you'll be able to switch from net to retail. So right now I'm viewing net. I could switch to retail if I wanted to. And you'll see that throughout the order process too. Another thing you'll see is the order status over here that tells you how far you've gone in the process. You'll also notice the order details down here, the quantity, the price, what I've picked so far. So 24, I'm just going to do that. Go next. Next thing that's going to show up is the options on the order. So if I come over here and I just pick one of these colors, we'll just go with the navy. Let's do the matte navy. And then if I want full color or laser engraved, I'll do laser engraved. Click next. And then you can see the order details. It just keeps stacking everything that we've done so far. So you kind of get an idea. At this point, you can upload the artwork and you'll see the supplier's information. So this is going to be the same process that your customer will go through, except they won't see who the supplier is. You'll only see this stuff on the back end when you're placing the order. If you're doing the order through the website, your customer will see your information here. So we get questions on that quite a bit, so I just wanted to address that. So your customer won't see that it's from Diamondback Branding. it'll have your information there. And so at this point, you can add any artwork instructions, comments to suppliers if you want to. We'll just keep it simple and go next. I can add another product if I want to, but we'll just do one at a time. If you click the details, you can kind of see the breakdown so far of what we've done. And I'm going to click next. Next is the PO number. So with our ordering system, whether the order is placed online through your website or if you do it on the back end, we automatically generate an order number for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But let's say that prior to DC or in general, you like to have PO numbers to track your stuff. You can create your own PO here if you want to. So if I just did test PO, then you can see that. Another option here, it says if the supplier uses this on the back end, they'll have a credit card option here where you can actually enter in your credit card right then and there. But a lot of times you'll see bill to account. So bill to account means that the supplier will contact you to set up payment arrangements for you. Usually reach out to you, within 24 to 48 hours after the order's been placed. And then you can set up payment arrangements with them. If your customer payment, you don't really have to worry about that. You're just doing it on the back end. So for now, if you did have the merchant account set up, it would have an option here for you to enter in their credit card if let's say you had their credit card already. But you can just leave it at bill to account for now. You can always invoice them later if you needed to. So then you come down here and the selected save address, if you click on that, it's going to have the addresses that are saved for that particular customer contact. So with contacts, you can have main, which is the default. You could have like sales, orders, customer service. It'll all be saved here based on the contact, and then you have the ability to go in there and select which one, or you can just enter it in down here. Next is the requested ship date. So you can request a date that you want it shipped or your in-hands date. If you wanted to do a split order, you could do, in this case, it'd be 12 of 24, fill in the address information, the shipping information, and then you would click save address. It would save it over here, and then you would do the next 12 of 24, put in the next address, and then you could move on with it. But we're just going to keep it simple for now. So we'll just do DC here. So it's auto-filling the information based on my browser. So if you have browser settings like that, it'll automatically fill in. You could do third party. If you have a third-party shipping number, you can add that. Once you add it, it'll save it to your account, and any orders moving forward, you'll be able to do it. You won't have to enter in your third-party shipping number. It'll be in the drop-down. Here you can see who the shipping carrier is, who they use. So in this case, UPS is their main, and then the different types: ground, next day air, second day air, 3-day select. Add another spot to add more comments, and we're going to click next. This is going to take us to the order review and confirmation page, which is the very last page of the order process. So I can go in here, I can update, I can edit whatever I need to before I actually submit the order. It's basically just going to give you a breakdown. And then, as I mentioned earlier, here's those three options. You can save it, create PO and send later, or send PO to the supplier, create PO and send now. So it's live, so I'm going to choose this middle option. Otherwise, it would get sent to the supplier. And so now here you can see this is the order summary page. So there's your order number. Like I mentioned, it automatically generates. One thing to point out before we get started on this page is even though I place the order on the back end through my DC account, it's always going to look the same here, whether you place the order through your DC account or if an order is placed through your website. So you'll have the customer section at the top, and then you'll have your section down here with the purchase order. So you see net and retail. So if you did the save option, here's where some people get confused, and I'll just delete this real quick. If you did the save option, it'll come in like this, and this is all you see. And so a lot of questions as we get is, I was doing the order, I placed the order, and how come my total is $527.76? Well, that's the customer order section, so the retail side. Once you create your PO, so if I click create purchase order, this is if I saved it. I can add comments to the supplier again. You'll see that that section will now be the net section. So whereas the customer's total is $527.76, Mine is only $395.76 as a distributor. So you'll see your cost where it says net here, purchase order to supplier, and then your customer's cost will be here where it says retail. So as you can see in the customer order section, which we'll briefly touch base here, it's just another breakdown. You can see who the customer is, the PO that I created. So like I said, you don't need a PO, but you can if you want. The order date, the actual item, the breakdown of the item. If I needed to add artwork later on, so let's say that I forgot to add artwork, I can click the add artwork button before I actually send it off to the supplier. You can create proofs for your customer. So let's say I did send it off to the supplier and I requested a proof from the supplier, they send it back to me. I can create a proof and send it off to my customer, which will give them the ability to approve it or decline it. And then you can kind of go off of that if you want to use it internally, or you can also do it through your own email if you want to do that. Once again, the correspondence that we talked about, so that's going to be tied to the customer account, and then I can add any correspondence. Once the order is placed, you have the ability to set a reorder reminder date. So let's say this customer wants to set a reorder for the same day next year. I can set it out, and then I'll get a reorder reminder to my account on that date that the customer is looking for a reorder. And they can set this reorder too on their end. When they see this order, they can request a reorder from you. And then you just have regular buttons up here like email, if you want to email it to yourself, print, you can edit it. So you can always go back in and edit it before you send it. With the order, the way it works is once you send it off to the supplier, then it's in the supplier's hands. And then if you had to cancel the order or anything, you would want to reach out to them directly. And you'll find all their contact information right here. So if you click on their name, it'll pull up their contact info and you can reach out to them directly. If you haven't, let's say that I place this order and my customer calls me and says, hey, I want to cancel the order. You can just cancel the order because it hasn't been sent to the supplier yet. So once you create the PO, that doesn't finish it. You need to create the PO and then send it. So you'll see that green send button there, and we'll go over this section here in a second. The status, you can change the status to your customer. So if the artwork's like, for instance, we're waiting on artwork, so I can say awaiting artwork, and that'll get sent off to the customer. That way they can see, when they check on the status, they can see it's awaiting artwork. With this status, if the supplier uses this on the back end, they can change your status here too, which I'll show you here because I'll mark this as sent instead of sending it. But you'll see a status here that shows up for you that, let's say if something was on hold, then you know to reach out to the supplier, etc. Next thing down is the invoice to customer. So as I mentioned, we didn't take any payment up front, but I have the ability now to create a customer invoice and send it off to them. So if I create the customer invoice, it's going to be created now. And then if I click send, it's going to have their information. So their email, whichever one you chose, is going to show up here. You can also add your own email in there if you want. If you had a different email they wanted you to contact them at, you can separate it with a semicolon. Then you can add comments in here, and you can also send as HTML, PDF, or HTML and PDF. I always do the HTML and PDF. That way they have a copy, a hard copy if they want to print it out, and then they can also view it online if they want to do it that way. So let's say we send the invoice. So now the invoice is sent off to the customer. And if you have the merchant account, so with the, like we talked about with being e-commerce enabled, this would just send off the invoice to the customer. They would be able to view it. They wouldn't be able to pay it because I don't have any merchant account set up currently. So we'll do that here in a second. But I just wanted to go over kind of the details of the invoice. So with our merchant accounts that we're integrated with, it's currently Authorize.net, PayPal, PayJunction, and Stripe. And PayPal, we have the paid versions, which would be integrated through your API, or you even have the free version, which is just tied to your email that you can use. If you use the email one, and I'll show you that here in a second, it'll redirect them when they go to your website, or if you send them an invoice, it'll have a Pay Online Now link, and it'll redirect them to your actual PayPal account, and then they can make a payment. So they'll see the total, and then they can make a payment. If you use something outside of that, let's say you use Square or something like that, you can still utilize DistributorCentral. So you won't be able to integrate it, but what you can do is, if I came over here, and I'll just create another customer invoice real quick. So when I create the customer invoice here, and then I get ready to, I click the send. Right here, I can include a custom message, and then I can provide a link to my payment gateway. So for, in this case, like the example we're using, Square, and then that'll give them the ability to see what they owe, and then they'll have a link that they can click on, and it'll take them to my Square account, and they can make a payment. So if you do have a merchant account outside of that, that's a good workaround for you. But if you do have one that we use, I'll show you real quick. Then you can set it up through DistributorCentral, so you can do all your transactions through DistributorCentral, whether you're doing it on the back end, like we're doing now, or if you want to build a website. When you build a website, it'll be attached to the website. So by default, your customer will be able to go on the website, place an order, submit it to you without entering in any credit card or anything like that. But if you use the merchant account, when they get to the last order review and confirmation page, it'll have a spot for them to enter in their credit card information, so that can be then stored and you can charge it whenever you want to. So if you come over here to the account tab and go to payment, and then payment setup, let me grab this real quick so I can show you what I'm going to do next here. So payment setup, here's all the payment types I was talking about. So you remember seeing the bill to account. So that's just basically going to be a bullet point that your customers can check for, recording purposes, bill to department, all different kinds of ones. Any ones that say credit card are going to be the ones that are integrated through the API. And then we talked about the PayPal real-time merchant, the free one, which is down here. And so that's the one you would select if you wanted to do if you want to use the free version of PayPal and just have them redirect to a PayPal account. But let's say I just want to do authorized.net. I move it over. I have an authorized.net account. I click save, and then I'll click edit settings. And this is the information you're going to pull off your actual authorized.net account. And so you'll enter in your API login and your transaction key, hit save. Once you hit save, then you're good to go. So any website you build moving forward will automatically apply that authorized.net account to it, so they can enter in their credit card at the end. And then any invoice I send will have the payment online now link that will take them to a page where they can pay, they can enter in their credit card if need be. So let's kind of say go back here. We got off track there. We got away from the order. Let's say we want to get back to it. How do we get back to the order? So there's a couple ways to do it. If you come up here to the products, you can go to order number. I can put the order number in there, and I can hit search, and it'll pull it right up. Another way to do it is if you come over here to where it says orders, you'll see a breakdown of a little menu here, a little quick guide, quick links. So new orders, just to kind of briefly touch base, these are going to be any orders that come over from your website. So new orders will be from your website. On hold, remember we changed the status to on hold, so you can see that one's on hold. And then recent orders is going to pull within the last 30 days. So regardless of whether you place the order on the back end through your DC account, or if you customer did it, place the orders on your website, recent orders will pull within the last 30 days. If you come over here and you want to go farther than that, you can go, so let's say we just do recent orders, which will pull up 3, which will include the one I just did and the one that's pending from the website. So if I look at it here, and then let's say I want to go back further, I can click on new search, and then I can come down here to the date range, and I can go 365 days. And I can pull up the orders for within the last year, all on my account. Another thing you can do is remember the order status that we changed. So if you take advantage of that order status, you can change it here and change awaiting artwork is one of the ones we set. So if I change it to that, you can see there's only one. So if there's only one, it's going to pull it up right away. Whether it's recent orders or not, it'll just pull the order up right away. And so that's how you can get back to your order. That's how you can search for previous orders. So we'll kind of move on. We'll go from the invoice here onto the actual PO here in a second. But with the invoice, you can edit it if you need to send it. The best thing to do with the invoice, so you don't confuse yourself, you can always delete it, as you saw me do before. So let's say I need to make a change to it. I can just delete it here. And then what you'd want to do is click edit up here on the actual order, and then create the order, make a change to the order, and then hit save, and then create your customer invoice because it'll be up to date. You don't have to do it that way, but if you do it the other way, then what's going to happen is the order is going to be different than the invoice. So it's up to you however you want to do that. Same thing with the PO. So if you made a change here, let's say you made a change to your order, you can always delete this and create a new PO, and it'll have that create purchase order number again. So you can do it that way, and that way everything syncs up, or you can edit it individually, as you can see here. Same thing with the PO. I can get in there and I edit it before I actually send it off. So say I made a change, I create the customer invoice, and now I have it pulled up here. And let's say that the credit card's on file. I can click record payment. And then once I click record payment, as I mentioned with the previous credit cards, I don't really have any on file now to show, but this is kind of how you would do it. So transaction type, you can go to use previous credit card, and then you can see it'll have their credit card information stored down here, and you'll just check a bullet point and then click submit payment. So you can submit that payment off. Another way to do it here, let's say you wanted to do like a partial payment, you can click record payment, and you can come up here, change the amount for the payment that you're doing. So you'd want to change that, leave this because that's the current total, and then change this down here with the payment applied. And then once you do that, it'll go ahead and it'll apply the partial payment for you and then tell you what's left over. If you track it a different way outside of DistributorCentral and you just want to track it for your purposes, and let's say they paid you already, you can come up here and mark as paid. And so then it'll update and say it's already been paid. Another thing we have is you can export your information to QuickBooks. So if you come over here to the Orders tab and you go to QuickBooks File Export, you can export the information. So invoices to customers, which is what we're doing now, or purchase orders to suppliers. So you can do that if you have QuickBooks that you use. So here you can see the payments, it's been made, it's been paid. Everything's good to go there. And then if I wanted to mark it as sent, I could do that too. So there's mark as sent, mark as paid. You don't really have to send it off if you don't want to. And that's just more for your recording purposes if you needed to. If you come down to the purchase order to supplier, like we talked about, here you'll see who the supplier is. Let's say that you contact a supplier and they say that, we're currently out of stock on that, but they have another supplier has the exact same product. You can come in here and click switch supplier and change it to a different supplier, and then click switch supplier, and that way you don't have to recreate the whole order again. So you can always view details just like the other one on any of them. But when you're ready, all you'll do is click send, and you can send it off to the supplier. You also have the option to mark as sent. That won't send it to them. So you have to click the green send button, which sends it over to their actual orders contacts. So if I click send, it's not going to send it. It's going to be the same thing as if I was sending the invoice. You can see orders at Diamondback Branding. I can add my comments in here and then click send order, and it's live, so I'm not going to do that. You can also send a copy to yourself. Here you'll see you can fill in, once you know like the tracking number and all that, you can edit this and actually fill in, you can add the tracking number down here once the supplier gives that to you. And the last but not least is on this page anyways, is the invoice from supplier. So the payments to the supplier. You can actually, if the supplier uses this on the back end, this will automatically update for you. If they don't, you can create a supplier invoice. Once again, it's just for recording purposes. So if I create it, you can see here, you'll get a note, supplier does not use DistributorCentral, just for recording payment purposes only. So if you pay the supplier with that bill to account, let's say you pay Diamondback Branding, you can enter in the information that you paid them, the payment amount, and that way you can have it for your own records if you need it. So another way is with the order that we talked about. This is the way the order comes in, or the order if you place it on the back end through your DC account. But the other option is your website. So you create a nice website, you have all the products on your website, you let your customers place the order, it comes in. The back end information is going to be the same once you receive the order, but we'll kind of take you through that process too. So let's say I get a new order that comes in. I go to my account, and you'll get a notification through the email, like I said, but you'll always get the notification on your DC account. So if I come in here, click on the orders, go to new orders. Remember, new orders is pulling from the website. And it'll pull up my new order that came from my website. And you can see right here which website it came from. So ordered on, and it'll tell you the website. So as you can see, it looks exactly the same. The only thing that was different from the one that I did on the back end is I actually created the PO, because I had the option to create the PO and send, create the PO only, or save it. So it comes in as kind of like a saved order if you want to compare it to the back end. So all I need to do is verify, make sure everything's okay. And then I'll create the PO to the supplier, same way I did the other time. And then once I touch base with my customer, make sure I got my payment and everything's good, then I'll send it off same way as we would on the back end. So same steps as you do on the back end, but it will be a little bit different where it's almost comes in as it was just saved instead of the PO automatically being created. So you'll just create the PO and send it off when you're ready, and then that will take care of the order being sent over to the supplier, and we'll start the process of them with the production on the actual order. So you can see a lot of different ways, a lot of different things are the same, whether you're placing an order on the back end or you're placing an order, and you can see the customer's already assigned to this one, and that's because when they placed the order, I signed into the customer account for the test, and then I placed it under the account. So as I mentioned earlier, the customer can log into their account on your website. They can see their order history. They can request a reorder. Let's say, just for an example, another thing is reorders, and we'll go over that here in a second. Your customer contacts you next year, and you didn't set a reorder date, but they contact you and say, hey, I want to do the same order I did last year. Well, if you can search two ways to find it. If they have the order number, obviously that's the easiest way to pull it up. Or you can do the date range search, or the day search, so like 365 if you want to do it within a year. But let's say you pull the order up here. So then all you have to do, instead of you having to go back in and re-enter in all the information, is you just come in here and you click on reorder. And then it'll ask you if you want to do exact reorder with changes. And then you'll click create reorder. The next page will take you to the order review and confirmation page. And then all you'll come down to here is just submit it. So you can create the PO. You know, if you're ready to send it off now, you can do that. So basically the same thing as before. So I think that's going to do it for today. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to give us a call. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can reach us at 888-516-7401 on the phone, or email us anytime, info@distributorcentral.com. Another good resource to check out is our help center. So if you go to info@distributorcentral.com, you can come up here and you can see the different sections that we have, or you can just type in, like, let's say you wanted to set up your payments, set up payment processing, and you can see the ones that we talked about: Authorize.net, Stripe, PayJunction, PayPal, and it'll walk you through the steps of how to actually do that. Another good thing to check out is if you go to our main website, DistributorCentral.com, come up to the resources and go to training videos. This is where we house all our previous webinars, and this one will show up on there too, probably within the next day or so. But you'll get a link to the recording, but if you ever need to refer back to it, you can just come back to this page, and then you can see here. So like we kind of briefly touched base on payments and stuff like that regarding the customers. We actually did a webinar not too long ago under the Introduction to Distributor Central that focuses around the actual customer experience. So you can check that one out right there. And this one will be added to that list here shortly too. Like I said though, I'll stick around for about 5 to 10 minutes. I do see some questions. We'll get those answered. Hope you guys are having a great day. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.